Venus is out of bounds now. And when we're thinking about this phenomenon of Venus, we have to study the excessive expressions of the Venus principle. An out-of-bounds planet is beyond the normal declination. Its wobble from the ecliptic is further than usual. Usually the planets are in a band around the ecliptic. Venus is excessively out of that at the moment. And this means that the qualities of love and harmony and beauty are exaggerated to some extent. And we often find that the abilities of an out-of-bounds Venus person would be expressed in these ways. So beauty, for example, and entertainment. And you have such characters as Charlie Chaplin and Dean Martin and Clint Eastwood and Tina Turner. These have all got out-of-bounds Venus. And there's something about the way in which they entertain that pushes the boundaries. You think about Charlie Chaplin, a boundary pusher, if ever there was, in that field of making people have a good time, entertaining. Tina Turner, an extraordinary woman, and Clint Eastwood, you know, he broke the mold of the most popular type of movie of his day, the Western. And yeah, he had Dean Martin, who was turning up drunk on the stage and so on. So they went a little bit further than other people had gone. And when it comes to your own Venus, if you've got an out-of-bounds Venus, maybe you're an entertainer of sorts. It might not be, you're on the world stage, but it doesn't mean that you're not an entertainer. And it's very likely that you would want to be a bit different, to push people's sense of what is beautiful. Venus's message to do with beauty is a lot wider than perhaps we give it credit for. And the Venus out-of-bounds people would be able to see that. They would be invested in beauty, especially art, especially music, and they might be singers, and they would want to use that medium to move beyond previous ideas of what beauty was. And they would tend to be more inclined towards making friendships of a wider circle of people. I myself have Venus out of bounds, and amongst my friends at different points in my life, I've had some very strange people, drug dealers, murderers, accountants, opera singers, musicians, a whole whack of types of people, every different colour, race, type, version of sexuality, whatever. It just didn't make any difference to me. I have no difficulty relating to anyone, everyone. I can always find something to relate to. And I think this ability of Venus to just find harmony somehow, somewhere in every situation is expanded when it's out of bounds. And also, I'm a musician of sorts, and I was making my money once by teaching singing. So, these kind of qualities of yearning to feel beauty and to expand beauty and to express beauty as a life path, they're very definitely underlined with Venus out of bounds. The most controversial sort of side to this, I suppose, is to do with sexuality. There are no limits with that. So on the one hand, you have lots of Venus out of bounds people who are in multiple marriages or socially unacceptable connections, great age differences, an older man marrying a very young woman, for example. Gay marriage, that would be a part of it. And also, they're thought to be strongly lustful, these people, and express that carnal aspect of Venus rather more liberally than is society's acceptable level. And none of these particular points needs to apply to you if you've got a Venus out of bounds, but it might. And the thing is that it is what it is, that there isn't any judgment about it. It's, it's sort of free thinking about your own inclinations and behaviours, but also other people's. So it's very liberal. Any out of bounds planet is going to be liberal. There's also the good side of it, shall we say, would be the grace and the charm and the charisma and the magnetism, and also a sense of care, I think, trying to make somebody well, make somebody happy, like Florence Nightingale was out of bounds Venus. We had a few other examples to think about. Liberace, he was a piano player who dressed up in a rather effeminate style and was clearly gay. And Dean Martin, like I mentioned before. Noel Coward, again gay and artistic. You also had murderers like Ian Brady, Peter Sutcliffe, and the Grey twins. And this sort of sense of enjoyment of violence in that particular case is taken to extremes. Some people like violence, I suppose, to some significant extent. A lot of us like it vicariously, insofar as sex and violence are the two major themes for entertainment. So violence is enjoyed to the point where there's no morality involved. And I don't think we're looking for expressions of morality with any of the out-of-bounds planets. This is what's refuted. Society tries to contain us within a norm, an acceptable norm. And out-of-bounds planets just say, no, we're not normal. We're not going into that straitjacket. And so whatever they do is considered antisocial because it's outside the norm. And like I said before, there are two sides to this. There's the kind of negative side where society blames the person. But then there's the positive side where actually they're taking sort of the sense of Venus to the exaltation, and then they're rewarded, such as Frank Sinatra is another example. And we have these sort of extremes of beauty and entertainment that stretch the boundaries of our quality of life. So all in all, Venus out of bounds can take you one way or the other further, but it doesn't decide which way you're going. So whatever you're going to do, you do it the more so with any out of bounds planet. So you're not going to become a murderer with an out of bounds Venus. But if you are already inclined in that direction, you'd be more inclined to go the extra half inch and get on with doing it. And the same is true of musical genius and so on. And Oscar Wilde was another, I think. And so this sense of Venus going out of bounds now for the next while will move us into territory where we're going to be tempted to indulge our excessive pleasures and to get a little bit more carnal perhaps and sensual and enjoy the pleasures of life rather more on the one hand. But on the other hand, we might find ourselves being much more creative and needing beauty and expressing beauty and wanting music in our lives and seeing that the quality of life depends upon beauty. And we might do something about that in a way that we haven't done before. There might be social disapproval for what we're doing, but all of us are going through this at the same time, so less so than you might fear. So this is a time to be encouraged to just go a little bit further in expressing what you find important, to touch your heart, especially with a sense of beauty and enjoyment and that love of pleasure that we feel, and take that to excess in terms of distance perhaps, but not habitual. A lot of things that we can do in life are permissible as long as we do them only once or twice. But if we do them all the time, then they become damaging to the body and to the psyche. So I think we have to be a little bit wild, and perhaps you might express your feelings for someone, whereas previously you kept it quiet because it was just socially normal not to say too much. But during the Venus out of bounds period, it's like February the 29th, a woman proposes to a man on that day in England sometimes. So that kind of sense of doing something to promote love, harmony and beauty, which you normally wouldn't do. That's the energy of the moment.